The peaceful darkness of space erupted in chaos as two ships collided above the jungle planet. Metal screamed against metal, and emergency alarms blared through both vessels. Inside the human research ship, Tom gripped his control panel, his knuckles white as warning lights flashed red across his screens. Engines failing. All crew, get to escape pods. The computer's voice remained calm while the ship shuddered around him. Through his viewport, Tom saw the alien ship spinning away, trailing debris. His own ship groaned, metal twisting as the planet's gravity began pulling them down. He ran through the emergency corridors, the artificial gravity failing in patches. One moment he was running, the next floating, then running again. Behind him, something exploded. Tom jumped into the last escape pod, his heart pounding as he strapped himself in. The pod ejected just as another explosion rocked the main ship. Through the small window, he watched his vessel break apart, pieces burning as they entered the atmosphere. From the alien ship, a single pod also launched, its design strange and angular compared to his rounded human craft. Both pods plunged toward the planet's surface, falling through clouds of deep purple and green. Tom's pod shook violently as it hit the atmosphere. The temperature inside rose quickly, and sweat dripped down his face. He checked his emergency beacon, damaged, but still working. The radio crackled with static. Then a voice came through, not human, but clearly artificial, translating another language. Unknown vessel, this is K of the Science Guild. Our pods will land approximately 8 miles apart. The planet's atmosphere contains toxic pockets. Do not remove your protective gear. Tom grabbed his radio. Understood. My name is Tom. My pod systems show high gravity and dangerous biological readings. We should try to meet up. Agreed, Kay replied. My species is better suited to toxic environments. I will try to reach your location. The ground rushed up to meet them. Tom's pod crashed through massive tree-like plants, each impact making him grip his straps tighter. The pod's parachutes deployed late, only partially slowing his descent before he hit the ground with a bone-jarring thud. For a moment, Tom sat still, checking himself for injuries. Nothing broken, but everything hurt. Through his pod's window, he saw plants moving, not just swaying in the wind, but actively moving, like giant tentacles reaching for his pod. He quickly put on his emergency suit and checked its seals. The planet's gravity pulled at him as he gathered his survival gear: water purifier, medical kit, emergency food, and a small tool set. The pod's sensors showed the air outside was barely breathable, with patches of toxic gas floating like invisible clouds. K, do you copy? I've landed, Tom called through his radio. Static crackled, then, I copy. My pod is caught in what appears to be carnivorous vegetation. The high gravity is making movement difficult, but my exoskeleton helps. What are your coordinates? Tom checked his damaged navigation system. Sending them now. Be careful. The plants around me are moving. They seem to react to movement. Noted. Humans are more fragile than my species, so stay in your pod until I get closer. These plants appear to hunt using heat signatures. Your pod should mask yours. As if to prove K's point, a massive vine-like appendage slammed against Tom's pod, making it rock. Through the window, he saw more plants turning toward him, their surfaces covered in what looked like eyes. K, Tom whispered into his radio. How good is your species at dealing with carnivorous plants? Better than most. We evolved alongside similar creatures. Remember, Tom, don't leave your pod unless absolutely necessary. The sun will set in approximately 3 hours, and my readings suggest the nocturnal predators are even worse. Tom watched as another plant creature slithered past his pod, its surface rippling with colors. He checked his suit's oxygen levels and settled in to wait. Copy that. And K, good luck. Looks like we're both going to need it. Outside, the alien jungle slowly closed in around his pod, and somewhere in the distance, something roared. The jungle grew darker as Tom watched the strange purple sun sink below the horizon. His pod's metal walls groaned under the attacks of various plant creatures, but the reinforced shell held firm. The radio crackled to life. "Tom, are you still safe?" Kay's voice came through with more static than before. "Yes," he replied, checking his suit's seals again. "But my pod's power is dropping. I'll have to move soon." "How far have you gotten?" "I've covered 2 miles. The plant life here is familiar, yet different. Some species look like those I studied on my home world." A loud crash came through the radio. "Sorry, had to break free from a grabbing vine." Tom pulled up his damaged navigation screen. "My scanner shows a clearer path if you head west. Less of those moving plants." He watched through his pod's window as strange, glowing creatures began emerging from the undergrowth. They looked like a mix between birds and lizards, with long necks that lit up in different colors. "Kay, we've got new company. Flying creatures with glowing necks. Are they dangerous?" "Ah, lightthroats. They're hunters, but too small for us. The glow attracts their prey." Kay paused. "Tom, I should warn you. My appearance might be shocking to humans. My species is quite different from yours." Tom laughed quietly. "I'm just glad you speak English through your translator. As long as you don't try to eat me, we're good." "Eat you?" "No, no. My species consumes only vegetation. Though I admit, your human humor still confuses me." The night grew deeper, and Tom's pod beeped a final power warning. The protective shell wouldn't last much longer. He gathered his courage and supplies. "Kay, I have to move. Pod's dying. Which direction should I go?" "Head east. The ground rises there. Less toxic pockets collect on higher ground." Kay's voice was steady, professional. "I've mapped several safe paths. When you exit, stay low and move slowly. The predators hunt based on movement." Tom took a deep breath and pressed the emergency release. The pod's door opened with a hiss. Immediately, the planet's heavy gravity pressed down on him, making each movement feel like he was walking underwater. He crept forward, using the glowing light throats above to see his path. Strange flowers closed as he passed, and vines slowly reached for his heat signature. His suit's sensors beeped quietly, warning him of toxic clouds. "I'm out," he whispered into his radio. "This gravity is brutal." "Your species evolved on a low-gravity world," Kay replied. "I'm moving faster now. The night predators avoid my kind's pheromones. Stay alert for a large beast with 6 legs and spines. They hunt in the dark." Tom froze as something crashed through the jungle behind him. He pressed himself against a tree trunk, trying to slow his breathing. A massive shape moved past, exactly as Kay had described. 6 legs, covered in spines, with multiple eyes that glowed faintly red. "I see one," he whispered. "Right next to me." "Don't move," Kay instructed. "Their vision is based on movement. Count to 200. It will pass." Tom counted silently, his heart pounding. The creature sniffed the air, but eventually moved on. Once it was gone, he started moving again, checking his compass every few steps. "Kay, tell me about your world," he said quietly as he walked. "Keep me focused." "Our cities are built underground," Kay began. "We live in great hives, but not like your Earth bees. Each of us is individual, but we share thoughts through touch. Our young grow in pools of nutrient fluid. And we—" Kay stopped suddenly. "Wait, Tom, I can see your heat signature. You're close." Tom looked ahead and saw something moving in the darkness. It was tall, with multiple limbs and an exoskeleton that reflected the light throat's glow. 2 sets of compound eyes caught the light. He stood very still as Kay emerged from the jungle. Despite all his mental preparation, Tom's breath caught in his throat. Kay looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a beetle, standing nearly 8 feet tall. They stared at each other for a long moment, 2 beings from entirely different worlds, meeting in the darkness of an alien jungle. "Hello, Tom," Kay said, raising one many-jointed arm in greeting. "Shall we find somewhere safer to talk?" A distant roar made them both turn. Tom nodded quickly. "Lead the way." Kay led Tom through the dark jungle with surprising grace, her tall insectoid form easily pushing aside the dangerous plants. Tom struggled to keep up, the heavy gravity making each step a challenge. His suit's oxygen meter blinked, showing half capacity. "There is a cave formation ahead," Kay said, her translator making her clicks and chirps into smooth English. "My scans show no toxic pockets inside. It will be safer than staying in the open." A screech echoed through the trees, making Tom duck instinctively. What was that? Flying predator. Too big for this dense jungle. It hunts in open areas. Kay turned her head, compound eyes reflecting the glow of nearby light throats. "You are tired. The gravity strains you." "I'm fine," Tom said, but his legs shook with each step. "Just need to adjust." They reached the cave entrance as the purple sun began to rise. The opening was wide but defensible, with large rocks they could use to partially block it. Inside, the cave rose high enough for Kay to stand at her full height. Tom sat heavily on a smooth rock, finally able to rest. He watched as Kay moved around the cave, touching the walls with her sensory appendages. Up close, her exoskeleton had patterns that shifted color slightly, adapting to the cave's shadows. "The rock will shield us from larger predators," Kay said. "But we should gather materials to make a barrier." She turned to Tom, her head tilting. "Your heart rate is elevated. Are you afraid of me?" Tom smiled inside his helmet. "Honestly, a little. You're very different from anything I've ever seen, but you saved my life out there. So I'm working on it." Kay's antennae twitched in what Tom would later learn was amusement. "Your appearance is also strange to me. So soft, with only 4 limbs. How do you manage?" "Pretty well, usually, just not on this gravity-heavy death planet." Tom checked his suit's readings. "The air here is cleaner. I might be able to take my helmet off to conserve oxygen." "Wait." Kay moved closer, extending a device from a compartment in her exoskeleton. "Let me test first. My species has experience with toxic atmospheres." Tom watched as she analyzed the air, noticing how precisely she moved her multiple-jointed limbs. Despite her alien appearance, there was something almost graceful about her movements. "The air is breathable for you here," she finally said. "But put the helmet back on if my sensors detect any changes." Tom carefully removed his helmet, taking shallow breaths at first. The air smelled strange, like cinnamon and ozone, but it was breathable. "Thank you. You seem to know a lot about humans." "I was studying your species before the crash. Your adaptability interests us. You survive in so many environments despite your physical limitations." Kay began arranging some fallen rocks near the cave entrance. "Help me with this barrier. You can show me this human adaptability." They worked together for the next hour, Tom suggesting ways to stack the rocks for maximum stability, while Kay used her strength to move the heavier pieces. As they worked, they learned to read each other's movements, to anticipate what the other needed. "You're a scientist?" Tom asked as they finished the wall, leaving just enough space to squeeze through. "Yes, a xenobiologist. I study life forms on different worlds." Kay settled near the cave entrance, her posture becoming what Tom recognized as more relaxed. "And you?" "Pilot and mechanic. I was transporting research equipment when we crashed." Tom sat across from her, finding himself less unnerved by her appearance now. "Speaking of that, what happened up there? Why did our ships hit?" Kay's colors shifted slightly darker. "Navigation error, perhaps. Or," she hesitated, "there are some among my people who don't want contact with humans, and some among yours who fear us. Could it have been intentional?" A roar from outside interrupted them. Through gaps in their rock wall, they watched a massive shape move past the cave entrance. They stayed silent until it passed. "Well," Tom said quietly, "looks like we'll have plenty of time to figure it out." If we survive. Kay's antennae moved in that amused way again. Indeed. Perhaps we should focus on that first. Tell me, Tom, what do humans know about treating toxic plant burns? Because there's a patch on your suit that's been damaged. Tom looked down at his arm and saw a small tear in his suit, the skin beneath already starting to blister. Oh, that's not good. No, Kay agreed, opening a compartment in her exoskeleton. It's not. But fortunately for you, I'm a very good scientist. Kay worked quickly on Tom's arm, applying a clear gel from her medical supplies. The burning sensation began to fade almost immediately. Tom watched with fascination as the angry red welt started to shrink. This is remarkable, he said. What is it? A healing compound from my world. We evolved it to counter toxic plants. Kay's antennae moved in complex patterns as she worked. But I notice you didn't cry out when you were hurt. Most species would have. Tom shrugged. Didn't want to attract predators. Besides, human pilots are trained to stay calm. He paused, watching her precise movements. Those patterns you make with your antennae, they mean something, don't they? Yes, it is how my kind shows emotion. Words are. Kay's translator crackled, searching for the right term. Secondary. We speak mainly through movement and touch. Outside their cave, the purple sun rose higher, casting strange shadows through the jungle. Tom's stomach growled loudly, making Kay's head tilt in surprise. Ah, that sound. Human hunger signal. When Tom nodded, she reached into another compartment. I have studied your dietary needs. These plants are safe for you. She handed him what looked like blue fruit, rich in nutrients you need. Tom examined the fruit carefully. How can you be so sure? I am a xenobiologist, remember. Your species was my special study. Her color shifted to a lighter shade. That is amusement, by the way. I'm trying to help you read my emotions. Tom smiled and took a bite. The fruit tasted like honey and mint. So, your people study us. But we know so little about you. Why is that? Kay's colors darkened slightly. Politics. Fear. Some leaders think knowledge should be controlled. She moved to the cave entrance, checking their surroundings. Night brings swarm hunters. We should make signs for danger. Together, they developed a simple system of gestures. 1 tap meant quiet, 2 taps for danger, 3 for hide. They practiced until the movements became natural, working in comfortable silence. As the day progressed, they took turns watching the jungle while sharing stories. Tom told Kay about Earth's oceans, making wide gestures to show waves. Kay described her homeworld's underground cities, using small rocks to build a model. Your cities go up, she said, stacking stones. Ours go down, in spirals. Each level has its purpose. Science, breeding, farming. Breeding, Tom asked. You have families. Not like humans. We. Kay stopped suddenly, tapping twice on the ground. They both fell silent. A pack of 6-legged creatures prowled past their cave. Unlike the solitary hunter they'd seen before, these moved in coordination, communicating through chirps and whistles. Tom and Kay pressed against the back wall, watching through gaps in their barrier. One creature paused, sniffing the air. Its spines bristled as it turned toward their cave. Without speaking, Kay moved in front of Tom. Her exoskeleton began releasing a scent that made Tom's eyes water. The creature outside sneezed, shook its head, and moved away. Defense pheromones. Kay explained once the pack was gone. Unpleasant for most species, including humans, Tom said, wiping his eyes but smiling. Thank you. You didn't have to protect me. Kay's colors shifted through several patterns. This is difficult to translate. In my culture, sharing knowledge creates a bond. I have shared much with you, and you with me. That makes us friends? Tom suggested. Similar concept. Closer to clutch mates, but not exactly. Her antennae moved in frustration. Your language lacks the proper term. A distant boom made them both look up. Through the cave entrance, they saw something streaking across the sky. A ship, but too far to signal. "They're looking for us," Tom said. Kay's colors darkened. "Yes, but will they work together to find us? Or—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. They both understood that their friendship, born of necessity and growing through understanding, might not be welcomed by everyone. "We'll figure it out," Tom said firmly. "Right now, can you teach me more about your color patterns? I think I'm starting to recognize some, but that last one was new." Kay's colors brightened again. "Of course, and perhaps you can explain why humans bare their teeth, smile, to show happiness. It seems very strange." Outside, another ship passed overhead, but they were too busy learning each other's languages, of gesture, color, and expression, to notice. Tom's damaged scanner beeped insistently, drawing both his and Kay's attention. Through the static on its cracked screen, a faint signal pulsed. "Look at this," Tom said, showing Kay the readings. "It's a rescue beacon, but the signal pattern is strange. It's using both our communication protocols combined." Kay's antennae twitched with interest as she studied the screen. "Someone wants both our species to find it. Distance: about 12 miles. Through that," Tom pointed outside their cave where the jungle had grown even thicker over the past day. The plants now glowed with an eerie blue light in the morning sun. "Bioluminescence means mating season for the flora," Kay explained, her colors shifting to what Tom now recognized as concern. "They will be more aggressive, but we cannot stay here. Our supplies are low." Tom checked his suit's patches where Kay had helped him repair it. "If we go together. Your strength, my navigation skills." "Agreed." Kay moved to the cave entrance, her head turning to scan the jungle. "The beacon's location is higher ground. Fewer toxic pockets, but more predators," Tom finished. They'd learned to read each other's concerns. "We've handled them before." They gathered their remaining supplies. Kay carried the heavier items, while Tom kept his eyes on the scanner and watched for dangerous plants. They moved through the jungle carefully, using their developed sign language when speaking was too dangerous. 2 taps from Kay made them freeze. A massive shape moved through the trees ahead, bigger than anything they'd seen before. It had a long, serpentine body with dozens of legs and what looked like glowing sacs along its sides. "Queen Crawler," Kay whispered, her translator barely audible. "Very territorial. We must go around." They backed away slowly, but Tom's foot caught on a root. He stumbled, and his scanner hit a rock with a loud crack. The Queen Crawler's head snapped toward them, its glowing sacs pulsing brighter. "Run," Tom shouted. They sprinted through the jungle, Kay helping Tom when the gravity slowed him down. The Queen Crawler crashed through the vegetation behind them, its massive body destroying everything in its path. There, Kay pointed to a narrow ravine ahead, too small for it to follow. They dove into the ravine just as the crawler struck. Its huge head hit the rocks above them, sending debris raining down. They pressed against the ravine wall as the creature tried to reach them with its front legs. "Hold still," Kay said, releasing her defense pheromones. The crawler recoiled, its glowing sacs dimming. After what seemed like hours, it finally moved away. Tom let out a shaky breath. "That was close. You saved us again. You would do the same." Kay's colors shifted to a warm pattern Tom had come to associate with friendship. "The ravine leads uphill. Perhaps we can follow it." They climbed carefully, helping each other over difficult sections. Tom noticed Kay was slower than usual. "Your pheromone defense," he said. "It takes energy, doesn't it?" "Yes, but it was necessary." She paused to rest, her exoskeleton slightly dulled. "Tell me more about Earth while we walk. Your stories. Help me focus." Tom told her about mountains, snowfall, and oceans as they climbed. He described cities, farms, and the way humans had learned to live in different environments. Kay shared stories of her own world's deep caverns and underground rivers. "Your people adapt through technology," she observed. mine through biology. Different paths to survival. They reached higher ground by sunset. The beacon's signal was stronger now, but something about it bothered Tom. "Kay," he said slowly, "what if this isn't a rescue beacon? What if it's a warning?" Kay studied the scanner. The combined protocols. It could be from others like us, previous crash survivors. A distant roar echoed across the jungle, different from any they'd heard before. The ground trembled slightly. "Whatever it is," Tom said, "we need to find it. Not just for rescue now, but to understand what happened here, why our ships really crashed." Kay's colors shifted through several patterns quickly. Concern, determination, and something Tom hadn't seen before. "Together then," she said, "whatever we find." Speaking of which, she pointed to strange markings on a nearby tree. They looked artificial, carved into the bark with tools. Tom moved closer to look. "Are those?" "Yes," Kay said quietly. "Writing. In both our languages." The message was simple but clear. Danger ahead. Trust each other. The carved message was only the first of many they found. As Tom and Kay climbed higher, more signs appeared on trees and rocks, some fresh, others weathered with age. Hide from the light. They hunt from above. The peaks are not empty. These warnings, Tom said, checking his scanner again. Some look years old. How many others crashed here? Kay touched one of the carvings with her sensory appendage. Multiple species, different times. This is not coincidence, Tom. A shadow passed overhead, massive and swift. They quickly pressed against a rock wall, watching as something huge circled above the jungle canopy. It was too big to be natural. "That's not an animal," Tom whispered. "That's a ship, but not like any I've seen." Kay's colors darkened with alarm. "We must reach the beacon before." Her warning cut off as the ground beneath them suddenly shifted. The whole hillside began to move. What they thought was solid rock split open, revealing a giant mechanical door. They tumbled down as the surface tilted, sliding into darkness. Tom's suit lights activated automatically, revealing metal walls covered in alien writing. They landed hard in a large chamber, Kay immediately moving to protect Tom from the fall with her stronger exoskeleton. "Are you hurt?" she asked, helping him up. "I'm fine, but—" Tom stopped, staring at their surroundings. The chamber was filled with crashed ship parts from dozens of different species. "It's a trap. This whole planet is a trap." Kay's antennae moved rapidly as she scanned the area. An artificial gravity well. It pulled ships off course, forces them to crash. But why? A deep humming filled the chamber. Lights began activating along the walls, and something moved in the shadows. Multiple somethings. Intruders detected. A mechanical voice echoed in multiple languages. "Proceed with species analysis and harvesting." Robotic figures emerged from alcoves, their design unlike anything from either Tom or Kay's worlds. They moved with disturbing efficiency, tools extending from their limbs. "Run," Kay shouted, pushing Tom toward a corridor. They sprinted through the metal hallways, the robots in pursuit. Tom's suit sensors screamed warnings about the shifting gravity fields around them. "They're hurting us," Tom realized as another corridor ahead sealed shut, into some kind of processing chamber. They found themselves in a large circular room. Through windows high above, they could see the jungle outside. More robotic figures watched from observation decks. "Species analysis complete," the mechanical voice announced. "Human. Physical capability below average. Intelligence and adaptability above average. Insectoid. Physical capability above average. Intelligence superior. Excellent specimens. Proceed with separation and harvesting." Metal arms descended from the ceiling. Kay moved faster than Tom had ever seen, using her strength to tear through the first mechanical arm that reached for them. But there were too many. "Tom," Kay called out as she was grabbed. "The walls. Your tools." Tom understood immediately. While the robots were focused on restraining the physically stronger Kay, he pulled out his repair tools. The wall panel near him was similar to ones they'd found in the crash sites. His hands flew over the alien technology, applying what he'd learned from studying both human and Kay's technology. Kay fought desperately, her colors flashing warning patterns as more arms grabbed her. Unauthorized access detected. The mechanical voice droned. "Hey," Tom shouted at the robots. "You wanted to study human adaptability. Study this." He jammed his rewired tool into the panel. Energy surged through the chamber. The robot arms spasmed and released Kay, who immediately bounded across the room to shield Tom. Her exoskeleton was damaged, leaking defensive fluids. "Kay, you're hurt." "Protection of clutchmates is instinctive," she said, her translator glitching. "You are my clutch now." The robots began to recover, moving toward them again. Tom held up his makeshift weapon, standing beside Kay. "Together then," he said, picking up her way of speaking. Kay's colors, despite her injuries, shifted to that warm friendship pattern. Together, always. Above them, through the windows, they saw more ships appearing. But these were familiar. Rescue ships, both human and Kay's species, drawn by the same gravity well that had trapped them. "Well," Tom said, readying himself for another fight. "Let's make sure they don't become more specimens for the collection." Kay's antennae moved in that way that meant she was smiling in her own way. Indeed, time to show them why our species are not to be underestimated. The robots advanced, but this time, Tom and Kay were ready. They had something the machines could never understand: trust in each other. Tom's damaged scanner beeped insistently, drawing both his and Kay's attention. Through the static on its cracked screen, a faint signal pulsed. "Look at this," Tom said, showing Kay the readings. "It's a rescue beacon, but the signal pattern is strange. It's using both our communication protocols combined." Kay's antennae twitched with interest as she studied the screen. "Someone wants both our species to find it." "Distance: about 12 miles. Through that." Tom pointed outside their cave where the jungle had grown even thicker over the past day. The plants now glowed with an eerie blue light in the morning sun. "Bioluminescence means mating season for the flora," Kay explained, her colors shifting to what Tom now recognized as concern. "They will be more aggressive, but we cannot stay here. Our supplies are low." Tom checked his suit's patches where Kay had helped him repair it. "If we go together. Your strength, my navigation skills." "Agreed." Kay moved to the cave entrance, her head turning to scan the jungle. "The beacon's location is higher ground. Fewer toxic pockets, but more predators," Tom finished. They'd learned to read each other's concerns. "We've handled them before." They gathered their remaining supplies. Kay carried the heavier items, while Tom kept his eyes on the scanner and watched for dangerous plants. They moved through the jungle carefully, using their developed sign language when speaking was too dangerous. 2 taps from Kay made them freeze. A massive shape moved through the trees ahead, bigger than anything they'd seen before. It had a long, serpentine body with dozens of legs and what looked like glowing sacs along its sides. "Queen Crawler," Kay whispered, her translator barely audible. "Very territorial. We must go around." They backed away slowly, but Tom's foot caught on a root. He stumbled, and his scanner hit a rock with a loud crack. The Queen Crawler's head snapped toward them, its glowing sacs pulsing brighter. "Run," Tom shouted. They sprinted through the jungle, Kay helping Tom when the gravity slowed him down. The Queen Crawler crashed through the vegetation behind them, its massive body destroying everything in its path. "There," Kay pointed to a narrow ravine ahead, too small for it to follow. They dove into the ravine just as the crawler struck. Its huge head hit the rocks above them, sending debris raining down. They pressed against the ravine wall as the creature tried to reach them with its front legs. "Hold still," Kay said, releasing her defense pheromones. The crawler recoiled, its glowing sacs dimming. After what seemed like hours, it finally moved away. Tom let out a shaky breath. That was close. You saved us again. You would do the same. Kay's color shifted to a warm pattern Tom had come to associate with friendship. The ravine leads uphill. Perhaps we can follow it. They climbed carefully, helping each other over difficult sections. Tom noticed Kay was slower than usual. Your pheromone defense, he said. It takes energy, doesn't it? Yes, but it was necessary. She paused to rest, her exoskeleton slightly dulled. Tell me more about Earth while we walk. Your stories. Help me focus. Tom told her about mountains, snowfall, and oceans as they climbed. He described cities, farms, and the way humans had learned to live in different environments. Kay shared stories of her own world's deep caverns and underground rivers. Your people adapt through technology, she observed. Mine through biology. Different paths to survival. They reached higher ground by sunset. The beacon's signal was stronger now, but something about it bothered Tom. Kay, he said slowly, what if this isn't a rescue beacon? What if it's a warning? Kay studied the scanner. The combined protocols. It could be from others like us. Previous crash survivors. A distant roar echoed across the jungle, different from any they'd heard before. The ground trembled slightly. Whatever it is, Tom said, we need to find it. Not just for rescue now, but to understand what happened here. Why our ships really crashed. Kay's colors shifted through several patterns quickly. Concern, determination, and something Tom hadn't seen before. Together then, she said, whatever we find. Speaking of which, she pointed to strange markings on a nearby tree. They looked artificial, carved into the bark with tools. Tom moved closer to look. Are those? Yes, Kay said quietly. Writing. In both our languages. The message was simple but clear. Danger ahead. Trust each other.